Good day, morning, evening, afternoon, night. This is Justin with another crossover minute. Sorry for the informality. Just have multiple things in my heart and have a pocket of time here today to share them. And so I'm taking time in this moment. One of the ongoing handful of burdens that has been on my heart over the recent several years now has been this whole digital age that we're in that has fostered and birthed the online experience, the online community, social media. It's almost a word that, it's almost a phrase that I'm starting to just generally not like, honestly. It's interesting because of my generation, I was here before we really even had the internet, of course. But the computers we had were just, at best, they were just like word processors. They were for typing and printing a paper for school or something like that. And there may have been some, the computing that we had was just, very archaic video games mostly. And then on computers, while you could do some basic, typing, there were some like, little games that people made. I just remember those old, but then, the internet came and it was, used in limited fashion first. And then there was a point in time where it became, email and everything became available to the populace outside of just school or outside of certain little circles at first. And next thing you know, all of a sudden email explodes into this, that was the first real social messaging system of all was email for years, and until these little chat features came out from different companies like Microsoft. They had MSN Messenger, and then Yahoo had a messenger, and this little short chat messaging really kicked into high gear. And then it just escalated from there. Facebook came out, and Facebook was the real door opener to the platforms that we see today, with their little offshoot of, well, I guess Instagram wasn't an offshoot. Facebook purchased Instagram. It was its own entity at first, Instagram, and then Twitter, and then eventually what's now become TikTok, and so forth and so on. There's so many of them out there right now, nowadays. But what has happened is, for some of us from that old guard that have gotten into this new realm early enough to where we were fascinated by it, there's an older guard that they have also lived through all this transformation, but they were old enough to the point to where they see kind of just seems like foolishness to them, or just, it's not their thing, or they may not even be computer people to begin with, so it's all kind of Greek to them. And but for those of us that are kind of straddling more the middle of the line, there was once Facebook exploded and what's other things, even email and all that, it was fascinating, or it was cool, and texting came out and all that too. By the way, that was also in there after email, and then the mobile phones and all that. Yeah, there was an interesting fascination, especially also for some of us that were, really like technology things and stuff. So to see how they're configured and how they work and how they operate and set up things and troubleshoot, to me that was also very interesting, just to configure and set up things and figure it out and stuff, just on a technological level. But then there's this generation that was born and raised into it, and not only born and raised into the more archaic versions, but also born and raised even now. Nowadays they actually, babies come with a tablet. I think most of them come with an iPad. Actually, it's part of the package now, from what I understand. Like they're born with these iPads. I think they're the minis. I think that's why the minis came out, because they were pre-packaging these with the babies at birth, and they learn how to use the iPad more than they're talking and reading and writing and doing other things. And I guess my overall observation, and I was caught up into this for some time, is that I feel like a lot of times we're living more online than in person. I don't know what the actual percentages are, but I remember making this observation for years, and I hope this is changing because I haven't really intentionally looked in more recent times than I had for a long time. I mean, but how many times you see, well, I remember so many times, earlier on, seeing a lot of texting and driving and people on their phones calling, and in some states have made laws where you can't do this now, it's going to be hands-free, blah, blah, and that's good. Not all states are like that. But I just remember some years back, I remember one day saying, you know what, when I'm driving, when I drive by cars on my way to work one morning, I was like, let me just look into people's cars, see who's on the phone. And I was like, anywhere between 40 to 70% of people were on their phone while driving. Mostly like this, some of them like this. And nowadays that's changed a lot again, at least to some degree because of all the hands-free options and laws and stuff. But the point is that between that, and then I would sometimes go to restaurants, and I remember a few times just making a point to look around and see couples, whole families, everybody or almost everybody on a device, and they're sitting down in a restaurant. They're supposed to be kind of getting away and having family time and bonding and having a good time at the restaurant and eating food, and they're all just on their phone the whole time. And people waiting in line to do something. Of course, I know it's a nice time killer, and people are waiting and kind of bored and just, wait, especially if it's a long line, whatever you're waiting on, pull out your phone and look at stuff. But then people in a waiting room, I don't know, it seemed like everywhere I was turning. And then I would visit some people's houses, and now the new modern pacifier of a kid is not a binky in the mouth. It's mommy's or daddy's phone or a tablet or you know. And I get it. I understand it. I'm not saying I don't understand it. And it's the age we're in. It's the world we're in. But my heart is still tugged upon because a few things are happening. If we don't keep things in balance, no matter what age we're in, no matter whether we're in the technological age or digital age or other, types of things, just like back in the past, the industrial revolutions we've had and all that stuff, the changes that take place in society, if we don't have balance, then we're going to have gaps in our foundation and in our children's foundation, in their upbringing, whether it be spiritual, whether it be social, whether it be familial, whether it be interpersonal or personal. Certain things missing, things that they don't even have an awareness of, or it's not even on their radar, or not even in them. It's foreign to them. It's totally a gap in that area. And I've seen this because being friends with families that have that raise their kids like this, or that have this in a very heavy way, and video games is another thing, by the way, that I can see things missing in their family life, in their kids, in their understanding that were just naturally a part of other people's upbringing or mine or others, where we had, we didn't have that distraction or that thing that was taking the place of the importance of family building. Now, I'll say this. The advent of social media and all that stuff is not the only thing that is potentially taking away from healthy family and upbringing. I know there's a lot of other things, epidemics that we have in our culture and society, with bad parenting and absentee fathers and this and that and all this other stuff. I know. This message particularly is just about what we can do to address the online experience, the social media experience. What can we do to just very honestly just push the pause button? And of course, ironically, this video is coming through some form of social media. But again, just, using the platform in a healthy way, hopefully. But what can we do to bring balance, to take an honest inspection, an honest inventory of how, not just how much time wise, but how we are spending our time? Because we could actually have a lower amount of online time, but be doing it at the wrong time, or where it has a hold on us still, or it's distracting us from important moments that we should be unplugged with our family, with our kids, with people that are in need, or with being really more fully present in our surroundings or settings with people. Or we may still be obsessed, or we may be peering into things that are illicit or immoral or indecent or of poor value, or that are feeding us in some form of spiritual junk food, or just that are not healthy for us, to take in. even though it may not be as much time spent as this other person over here, but they're doing a lot more productive things or spiritually good things or wealth, using it in a healthier way. But my point is that not just putting a filter on the content, not just being a good steward of the content, but also when and how we use social media. Do we want it to really be as prominent of a place in our life as it is, to where we're almost dependent upon it to be at peace or well or happy or satisfied or okay? I mean, if we didn't have social media, like if it got cut off from us, from any form of use on a computer, a phone, a tablet, any way, shape, or form, if our accounts got froze, we could not use them for, say, a week or a month. Besides just the vital connections that we may have, like through direct call and messaging of people that are family friends. Let's say we had another way to at least communicate with the important, ones like that. How would we feel? Would we feel lost? Would we feel suddenly like we're missing out or disengaged, or that our life is like empty or boring? Or would we look around at our family or our personal life, or whether we live alone or with family or with roommates, and how we are with people in public, or how we interact with them, like, would we feel complete? I mean, hopefully a lot of people hearing this video say, well, yeah, I think so, or yeah, I know so. But I'm wondering, if we're truly honest, if some of us might say, you know what, I really am pretty dependent on social media for my own just daily satisfaction and feeling like I'm a part of something, or feeling like I'm, that it's interesting, or just this is like a big hobby to me, or like a big, a consuming hobby maybe, or whatever, I don't like the thought of God's creation and the people he created divulging interpersonally from his intention for us to be a community. And I know there's such thing as a quote unquote online community. I'm sorry for anyone who wants to argue differently. I will be a good listener, but I probably will not agree that having an online relationship is not complete as an in-person relationship. There are some things that just cannot be experienced or substituted for if you're only online with someone as opposed to in person with them. And that includes even upwards to video calls. Even though you can gather a lot and garner a lot, and you can supplement a good in-person relationship with other means of communication, of course. But as the sole or very, very vastly primary means of relationship with a person being online only, we're missing out on the human touch. We're missing out on the true human element. We're missing out on the full blessing that God has intended for us to just know each other face to face, to look each other in physical, in-person, present eyes, see expression, engage, and hold, shake hands, embrace, give hugs, sit and talk, engage non-verbally and verbally, present live, be with them, laugh with them, do things together outwardly with them, in the home with them, outside the home with them, interacting and with others, coming together, being in one place at one time. And I understand there's a lot of lonely people out there. And online is like, social media is like more than a Band-Aid. It's like a temporary medicine, temporary medication that can kind of get us through, get us by, and maybe even feel good, or at least ease the pain, or mask it, or divert from it. I understand. I've been there. I know what it's like. And maybe for even a season, God gives grace in that, as long as we're handling, engaging things well. Again, not getting into immorality and impropriety and things like that. But what is our target or our goal? What do we really want with life? What is life supposed to be all about? What can we do differently to reach out to communities, or find communities of people in person that are more like us, that are going the direction that, so I remember some people say, well, I can't find good people, or I can't find even a good relationship, or a man or woman, or, without near me or whatever, or just, the right kind of people to be around. That just, I'm like, well, is it possible that, maybe not putting yourself in the right situations enough? Find, like for someone who wants to be around quality people and just can't find, I'm like, find a volunteer, I don't know, a soup kitchen or a volunteer place, or somewhere where you'll find people that are really giving and selfless and just really good-hearted, to show up to us on an early Saturday morning or a Wednesday night or Monday evening to do this, to pray, or to serve homeless, or to feed people at a soup kitchen, or to do this or that, or to do some benevolent thing that most people will be like, no, I'm not going there. That's out of my way, or I don't feel like that, or, you'll find good quality people if, most of the time. I'm not saying all the time, but most of the time you'll, if you get creative enough, and, well, we don't have, well, I don't know. One thing I know is that we have to seek God on this. And I know that we have to be a quality person, and we have to maybe be the light to other people, and keep healthy boundaries. It doesn't mean just accept the wrong type of people to be too close to. We have to keep healthy boundaries to keep from being around toxic people, or toxic, unhealthy relationships, and connection with people and fellowship. I understand that. But there's got to be a balance in there. There's got to be something. There's got to be something that my point is, it doesn't mean, even though for me it's meant, totally cut off social media for X amount of time, or periodically, deactivate it for a while and stuff. Or what. Some people say never, or some people say I'll never have it. Some people say I'll never cut it off. Whatever your balance is, just between you and God. I'm just asking honest questions to stir up honest thoughts, so that we can each, wherever we're at in our journey, see where we are and the way it's going, and if it's in a healthy direction, is a healthy balance or not, and what we can do to adjust that, to really walk it out well in our context, in our situation, in the season of life that we're in. Because on one level, of the people that I've known online over the years, we don't really know each other. We may know some really key things about each other, and on one level, we know some. We have an important, maybe even a healthy connection, or a good, trust, or this or that, or respect. But you don't really know a person until you're with them, until you're around them enough, and see how they are from day to day, and just how their daily interactions, their attitudes, their results. You just don't, because it's easy to put on a face and a facade and a mask, with your social media, with your profile and your interactions with people and the things you post and all this and that. And both for the good or even for the worse. Some people just lose all restraint, and because they can say things, and they do things or whatever, in hopes that someone will like it or whatever, that's wrong or very inappropriate. But the point is that we can't truly know someone without being with them. Like, truly know how they really fully are. And I've seen it happen now. We can have a good guess, and the way we perceive and the way they've conducted themselves, or the part that they've shown them, you can see that online, and then meet them later and be like, oh, they were pretty genuine to how they really are. This is like an extension of how, but there's still parts that you just can't capture, and could have never caught online, that you had to be in person to catch, to either see more of how they are that couldn't be captured online, or to confirm that, yes, this person really is how I perceive them online. You see what I'm saying? And there's been times when I've met people in person that have been very different than the way I perceive them online. And thankfully in my situations, that didn't mean they were worse or bad people. I know that can happen a lot to some people, that may meet someone in person eventually, that they're really a much worse person than, or just, really not the same, in a bad way, in a not so good way. But for me, they were just very different. It's like they came across as just a different person, just socially and interpersonally. They had the same values, the same morals. They weren't bad in that way, and they weren't bad in the difference that they were. It was just a different. It's like meeting a different person than what I knew from them and how I perceived them online, and the way they either portrayed themselves and or the way I perceived from the way they portrayed themselves compared to how they actually were and how it actually was being with them. It was just very different. So again, I guess things like that, and just thinking about all this and my observation of the years just has me thinking in general. Are we impersonating someone or something that we're not? Can we do more to be in person with people, to be fully present and aware and alert, not distracted all the time? Can we be unplugged? Just want to leave you with these thoughts, just processing with you, honestly. This has been an ongoing processing I've had over the years, and I will continue to. And I'd love to know that you all and we all are in this thought process and discussion together, so we're not just ignoring what's happening, but we're taking a look at it and making sure it's being guided well in our life. So with that, Justin, another crossover minute. Blessings to you and your home.